Hi, and welcome to Managing Your Social Networks, part of Business Bites Online at the Miller Business Center. I'm Sal DiVincenzo. When we were coming up with this presentation, we were looking at older presentations that we've done on managing your social networks for small businesses. And we were specifically looking at apps when we were doing those presentations. So we were looking at TweetDeck and Hootsuite and that type of thing. So when we were coming up with a newer online version of this program, we felt that it was important to also talk about best practices. So this presentation is going to be, the first part's going to be best practices, and the second part is going to be a quick look at some of those apps and how you would use them. So before we jump in here to some of the things that we feel are important for you to think about when it comes to managing your small business social networks, is some data. And, we're data geeks here at the Miller Business Center. We love it. We're nerds when it comes to this kind of stuff. And we have a fantastic database here at the center, which is called Statista. And you can access that here at our CenterReach or Selden buildings when you're here in person. But let's take a look at some data about social networks that I think will kind of set the stage and illustrate how important it is to select the proper social network when dealing with your feeds and advertising and marketing your businesses. So the most popular social networks worldwide as of July of 2020 was Facebook, followed by and tied with YouTube and WhatsApp. They're both tied there for 2 billion users. And then you could see Facebook Messenger, WeChat, Instagram. And it all trails off to the last one on this list, which is Twitter, which is very interesting because you would assume that Twitter would actually have the most active users, but they don't. So that doesn't mean that Twitter is not a great tool for your small business, but I think this illustrates that right now, Facebook and YouTube are the place to be as far as actual people actively using those services. Now, that being said, global active usage penetration of leading social networks as of February 2020 tells a little bit more of the story here. So you can see Facebook and YouTube are almost equally used on a regular basis, even though there's a different amount of overall users for those social networks. Additionally, you can see here Instagram and Twitter, 36 versus 23% are being used. So I just wanted to illustrate to you that even though there are less users to YouTube, and even though there are a lot less users for Twitter, they're still being used. But Twitter is being used a quarter of the time that folks are accessing their social networks. So the leading social networks used by small businesses to advertise, and this is data is from 2019. You could see again, Facebook is at the top. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they do make it fairly easy for you to get information about your potential audience and to target that potential audience pretty easily, and we'll see that later on in this presentation. And also, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, they're pretty much even as far as what small businesses are using to advertise. And you'll notice we're really not going to talk about LinkedIn here, but you'll notice LinkedIn is also on this chart here, not used for advertising for small businesses as much as Facebook, primarily because, frankly, LinkedIn is used mostly for networking, reaching out, building contact lists, building relationships, not so much for advertising, your products or services. So the number of social network users worldwide, this is the trend from 17 to 25. And you can see between now and 5 years from now, still going up here. This is the number of users, billions. Right now, the estimate is 3.6 billion. It's going to be 4.4 billion in 2025. So, pretty safe to say that it is okay to continue to advertise your businesses on social networks. So let's talk about best practices. Okay, before we get into the meat and potatoes of things, what's important? What are the things that you need to think about when it comes to creating a social network plan? So first, you really need to learn everything you can about your audience, and we'll go into that bullet point a little deeper in the next slide. But just really quickly to preface what we're about to talk about, you know, your demographic, knowing who you're advertising to, knowing who you're selling to is incredibly important. And the fact that you have those tools in a lot of these apps and services that you can target specific people is really helpful. And it's going to save you money and it's going to save you time. So you definitely don't want to advertise your business to folks who don't care or folks who can't afford or folks who are not relevant. So it's really important for you to learn everything you can about your audience. And there's different ways of doing that. We'll talk about that in a moment. You should also choose which networks to use. We saw there's about 5, 6, 7 popular social networks out there. You really should pick one or two and concentrate on those that are relevant to your type of business. So if you are a very visual business, perhaps you are a photographer or you're a construction company, you want to choose something that's going to allow you to illustrate what you do easily. So you're talking about Instagram and Facebook, or YouTube, because they allow you to post photos in a very nice way. They're displayed very nicely. There's an interaction there that works very well. Whereas if you are doing a service, perhaps you want to skip YouTube or Instagram and focus on, Facebook and Twitter and use those means of driving traffic to your site. Because really, what it all comes down to here is, in many cases, you want to drive people to another part of the web. So your website, your blog. So social networking in many cases is a bridge. It's a bridge from that social network post to somewhere else. And a lot of times it's not a brick and mortar. A lot of times it's your website or your e-commerce page. So you want to choose the network that's going to, be appropriate for what you are doing in your business and how you are presenting your business and how you would do it normally. So again, if you're a visual business, if you're a photographer, you want to show your photos online, Instagram would be, probably my first choice would be to do something like that because that's what Instagram is made for. You want to have a plan and you want to set goals. Okay, so we here at the center, we like to focus on free services and free apps. But when it comes to this, if you really want to be super serious about your social networking and marketing via social networking, sometimes there is a cost involved, and we'll talk about that later. So you definitely want to have a plan and you want to set goals. What is the reason why you are on social media? It's not going to be to tell your potential customers what you ate for breakfast this morning. It's going to be to get them to click through, to get to your website, and to hopefully buy your product or your service. You also want to keep an eye on the competition. And it's fine to mimic what your competition is doing. And it's also fine to look at companies that might be larger than you. Because if you're a florist, for example, a small local florist, it's okay to see what 1-800-Flowers is posting on their Twitter feed and maybe come up with a plan that's similar to what they're doing and scale it to your size business. And, we're going to find out later on that it's okay to let your competition know who you are, and it's okay for you to interact with them even. Because there is a sense of camaraderie in many cases. And really what it comes down to is you're going to want to present yourself as not this ruthless person who's out to get someone's business. You want to come off as someone who is providing a product or service that is beneficial to the person on the other end. And you want to create a relationship. That's what social networking is. This isn't cold and calculating. This is about connecting with your customers and giving them an experience that they're going to really connect with you, enjoy it, feel good about it, and then they'll come back for more. So see what your competition is doing, see what their voice is, see what their tone is, and adjust it accordingly to your business. You want to listen for mentions of your business. This is very important. And you want to monitor conversations that are relevant to your industry. So if someone mentions your business, you're definitely going to respond to it. And you'll see it's a couple of bullet points down here. And you also want to monitor conversations that are relevant to what you do. If you, I highly recommend, if you are in a specific business that has a trade association or a trade magazine that posts on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, you should follow them. You should connect with them. You should share that information with your followers. So this way they know what's happening in your industry and how you fit inside of that. So, by doing that, you're also connecting with folks who might be interested in what you do, but not are necessarily connected to you yet. So if I follow a trade association that happens to be within your industry and I see you've retweeted or you've posted or you've answered one of their tweets or one of their posts, or you've commented on one of their posts, I'm going to see you. And that's a great way of connecting your business with a potential customer who is me, who doesn't follow you right now. And again, establish your social media voice and tone. Are you going to be easygoing, funny, entertaining? Are you going to be serious? It really depends on what you're doing, what your personality is. Because remember, this is social networking. We want to be social. As well as what your product or service is. Obviously, if you deal with some sort of medical equipment that saves lives, you're not going to tell a joke about it. You're not going to be lighthearted about it. You might want to be serious and understanding and empathetic. But you definitely want to monitor your voice, your tone. And again, going a couple of steps back up here, listen and watch what other businesses in your industry are doing and how they are using their voice. Doesn't necessarily mean you want to do the same thing they're doing, but you might want to decide that your way of posting on social networking is going to be, you're going to put your own mark on it. So you want to respond to all comments and mentions promptly, okay? And this definitely is important because folks are coming to your feed or they're responding to something that you have posted. They're going to want to see how quickly you respond. You shouldn't let it go 12 hours. You shouldn't let it go 24 hours. You definitely don't do that because that's going to be a reflection on you. It's going to be a reflection on your level of customer service. And it is very important. And this is why when we get to the end of this presentation, we're going to talk about what apps are beneficial to you to allow you to monitor what's happening on your social feed. And you definitely don't want to repost the same message across networks. Now, I know that we are all busy and look, it's easy to do this. It's easy, especially when you're using some, service like Hootsuite, to create one post and then send it off, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You really don't want to do that. Besides there being different audiences and different formats, it's not going to be appropriate in many cases for you to post a photo on Instagram and then post the same photo on Twitter and post the same photo on Facebook when there's a very good chance that some of the folks who follow you also follow you on all three of those. And they're going to see, okay, I'm getting three of the same things. So you don't want to do that. So don't repost. Come up with different information. Come up with different content for those those three different, let's say you're doing three different social networks. So this way you're getting fresh information and it's appropriate to that network. So now we're going to go back to that first bullet point, learning about your audience. So you definitely want to know what your audience is looking for, who they are, and how well you're able to advertise to them. So they're going to respond to what you are putting out there in the world. So right off the bat, your social network has analytics tools. They have the analytics. And these are available if you have a business account. Now, speaking of, personal accounts and business accounts, if you are on Facebook, for example, and you have a personal page, you should have a business page, and you should do all your business from that business page. Now, I know some of you might be consultants, and your personality, or you as a person, is the business, okay? Because you're a consultant, Bob Smith consultant. That doesn't mean that you should just do everything from your personal page. Your personal page is about your family life. It's about what you ate this morning. It's about where you're going on vacation someday. That is your personal account. Your business account should be completely separate. There are folks who have gotten into trouble by doing business this way and having a Facebook page where it's a personal page and they're doing business through the personal page. Definitely don't want to do that. So create a business account, create a business page on Facebook. You'll be able to administer that business page from your personal account. So you'll be able to select it in a drop down. And after you get the business account on the social network, you'll then have analytics access. And in Facebook's case, it's called Facebook Insights. So you want to monitor interaction between like businesses and their customers. So see what other businesses like your own, what they're doing, how they're speaking and connecting with their customers. And again, this doesn't mean that you're going to copy what they're doing, but you're going to get an idea of both how they're marketing and also how the reaction is going. And you're going to adjust it accordingly. And this is a good way of finding out who your audience is, who your potential audience will be, is by, observing other businesses like your own. And it could be in a different state. It could be in a different location. So this way you might feel more comfortable not, I don't want to call it spying, but monitoring someone who's a few towns over. So you can see what other businesses are doing and, create your marketing plan based on that. You want to use third-party apps. And you'll see here on this slide, there are dollar signs here because most third-party apps cost money. That being said, they do a heck of a lot more than just the simple, onboard analytics tools that are built into the social networks. So you do get your money's worth. Whether or not it's worth you as a small business owner and what you're doing and what your business is and how involved you are in social networking, whether or not it's worth spending that money is up to you. Okay. And I recommend going into the analytics, look at Facebook Insights, look at Yahoo Analytics, look at Google Analytics, look at all the different things that you're connected to, and see if it's worth it, because it might not be. The free services that you get might be just as good as for what you're doing as if you were to pay for these apps. Customer surveys and polling, also very important. Put a survey out there, see what your customers want. You can do polls inside of services such as Twitter. You can ask your Twitter followers a question. You can make it entertaining. You can make it cute. You can find out what they're interested in. And also sending surveys out to your existing customer base and asking them if they are on social networking And if they're not, you can then let them know that you are, and that's a means of advertising to them to subscribe or to start following you on social networking. And also, there's databases and statistic resources. We saw that at the beginning of this presentation. I have the icon there for the Miller Business Center. We have demographic databases. We have statistical databases. Let you know age, gender, who's using what, as far as the social networks, and you can base your uh, social media marketing plans on that as well. So this is what Facebook Insights looks like, and this is a very simple page here. I just decided to take a look at the library's page, and we don't have that much information showing up here. But based on this particular audience, and you could see it's about 1,800 for this particular audience, you'll notice it's very clear to see that the majority of the folks interacting on the library's Facebook page are women, which is double the average for all of Facebook. You can see this 83% women are interacting and connected to the library on Facebook, and 17% men, which is a much, much lower than the average of all of Facebook, which is 56%. So if that's the case, and you are your business is a man's product, like a man's grooming product, for example, then you're in trouble here. Then you need to build your audience a little differently. You need to target folks differently here. This would be very telling. You can also see relationship status, married. You can see education level, college. So we mostly have women who are married and have gone to college browse our Facebook page. So this is basic information here, and it's very telling. It tells you who is on your Facebook account, and if it's the opposite of what you do, you need to come up with a plan on attracting more of your demographic. And if that means switching platforms, then you're going to have to switch platforms. If that means doing an advertisement that says, "Hey, ladies, let your man know," or something like that, then that's what you need to do. You need to adjust your plan. So what does Facebook know? They know a lot. They know a whole lot. In fact, you could see here, this is from the Wall Street Journal. They know what type of mobile device you're using. They know what you've purchased. They know where you shop. They have access to public data that's readily available, and they link it up to your account. They also know your browsing history. So they use cookies on your browser, your web browser, or your mobile browser. And that's why sometimes when you're searching for mattresses, for example, you need a new mattress, and you're doing a web search on Google for mattress stores. And then the next time you log on to Facebook, you notice you're being served an ad for Sleepy's. That's how they get it. They're watching you. They're watching what you do, and based on that, they're creating a algorithm. Based on an algorithm, they're creating a plan on serving you a specific type of ad. Now, this data is then funneled through the insights system, and it allows you as an advertiser on Facebook to then take that data and target specific folks who are on Facebook. Service like YouTube, their analytics a little different, but you're going to be looking at how long people watch your videos, how long they watch an individual video. So you could see here at the bottom of the screen one of these spotlight episodes. The average duration view time is 7 minutes, but I know for a fact that video is much longer than 7 minutes. So what was it what was the reason why folks stopped watching it. So I would maybe look back again and say, oh, you know what, that was too long. I need to split that up over parts. The attention span of my demographic on my channel is much lower. My average viewer watches only 3.5 minutes of the video. So what should I do? I should create videos that are 3.5 minutes or less. This is a way for me to adjust my marketing plan, a way for me to manage my time, because I'm not going to spend, too much time on one subject here on my videos. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, and maybe I'm going to get more of a viewer spending the time to the end of the video. So I'll have 100% of the average view rather than just in this case 23%. And that's important. That's important to know. Twitter also gives you basic analytics. In this case, you could see this is from the Miller Center's Twitter feed. They give you information on impressions, and if you've heard of that term before, for Twitter, impressions are the total tally of all the times that the tweet has been seen. And this includes not only the times it appears in one of your followers' timelines, but also the times it has appeared in search or as a result of someone else liking the tweet. So you can see in this case, the 28-day summary, we had 649 folks see our tweets, and it's up 47%. So that's a good thing. You can also see what our top tweet is and who our top follower is. And I pointed out the top follower because, that top follower also has followers. It's got folks who are following them. And if we interact with our top follower, maybe our top follower has posted something. If we interact and maybe like what they've done or comment on what they've done, their followers will see us. And it's sort of like that old timey commercial. I think it was that the shampoo commercial or the conditioner commercial where they say, oh, and they tell two friends and they tell two friends. It's that exponential growth, which is really at the heart what most folks want to do, that viral aspect of social networking where it just keeps going and going and going. So you definitely want to know who your top follower is, and maybe make them a channel to other things. So I mentioned third-party apps before, and these are some of the apps that we suggest, and also some of these, if not the majority of these, are going to have some sort of cost involved with them. Now, we'll look at Hootsuite later on, and perhaps we'll look at Social Mention. Those are two services that I can tell you have a free component, and Mention as well has a free component. And let me mention regarding Mention. I've said Mention too many times here. Let me mention that we did speak about Mention in a previous program. And we'll put the link in the description below for this video, where we speak a little more about Mention and how it works. So I'm not going to spend too much time on Mention, but just basically Mention is an app that you can put on your mobile device that allows you to see when people are talking about you, aka mentioning you on social networking, and it's a great way of monitoring your feed. And then Social Mention is also a service that we'll take a look at in a little bit that does something similar. But these are all third-party apps that do a lot of the legwork for you, and they're going to provide you with much more in terms of tools and data when it comes to analytics, because that's all they do. It's their purpose is to get analytics and monitor your social feeds, see how they're performing. Now, let's really quickly talk about content before we move on. So this is from Hootsuite, and I thought it was really great to include here because I think it's probably um, fantastic guideline when it comes to what you're tweeting. So it's the social media rule of thirds. So each third share, you should be doing something for your social media feed. So one third of your feed should be posts to promote your business, convert readers, and generate profits. So that's the business side of things, right? You're just basically pushing it, pushing a sale, pushing an offer, converting readers into customers. Okay. Generating profits, making money. That should be one third of your tweets. Perfect. Like that idea. The second third should be posts of ideas from influencers in your industry or like minded businesses. Okay. I mentioned before that collaboration, the going to your competition, following your competition, and seeing what they're doing, or following a trade organization or an industry organization and sharing that information with your followers, um, showing that you know your industry. Okay, so that should be the second third of your posts. And finally, the final component here of your post should be personal stories to build your brand. And this is where that top follower comes in. So if you have a customer who is also on Facebook, or if you have a customer who's also on Twitter and Instagram, and they've used your product or services and they were happy with your product or services, you should share that story. So this way the rest of your followers can see how well you've helped this person and why they should go with you and why they should use your services, why they should do business with you. I think this mix is great. Okay. And again, personal stories doesn't mean what you had for breakfast. I keep saying that. It shouldn't be that. Personal stories is the success story, the story that, again, if you're a photographer and you did a wedding and your customer posted their beautiful wedding photo that you've took on their feed, and it's a story of how well it went, how great you were, how you worked so well with the family, how you set all the shots up so nicely, how you were kind of hands-on when it came to the planning of all the photos, and this is the result, and how great ABC Photo Company is, and you should use them for your wedding. That is really what the personal story is. So the social media rule of thirds, I think, is a great idea from Hootsuite, and I think you should consider it. Sharing content shows your followers that you know your industry. So if you are sharing content from a competitor who had a great idea about something, or if you're sharing content from an industry organization, you're going to educate your followers. You're going to educate your customers and your potential customers. And you're going to show that you're not afraid to share that information, and kind of give them a look behind the curtain. It's also going to show that you're collaborative, that you're not in it for the money. You're in it for the benefit of your customer, to make their lives better. And it also shows where you're positioned within the industry. So you might not be 1-800-Flowers, but you are a small neighborhood florist who's going to work one-on-one with you. And you might not be able to get something to them in an hour, but you can certainly have it by the end of the day, and it's going to be a better quality, and you're going to work with them much more than that huge, gigantic, cold, faceless company. So sharing that content, sharing that information is important. And again, it goes to that second third of the rule of thirds, where you're not just selling. You're educating, and that's important. An educated customer is a good customer, and they're going to spend more time with you, and hopefully some more money with you. And speaking of time and money, these are some considerations that you should take when it comes to social media and coming up with a social media plan. So time. You have to plan your week. You have to plan your social networking. this is in many cases a full-time job for a lot of folks. There are companies out there who are obviously most likely bigger than you are that have a social media department where they have someone managing all this stuff, and they have someone organizing tweets and someone who is just constantly monitoring the feed uh, on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram and replying in a timely manner. That is takes a lot of time, and in that case takes a lot of money. So you should plan your week out, and use a publisher or a service like Hootsuite. So Facebook has its own built-in publisher where you can go to the Facebook page, you can click on publisher, you can create a post, and you can schedule it. Great, built in. Or you can use a service like Hootsuite, which we'll take a look at briefly in a little bit. And you can create a tweet, save it, schedule it, and then have it post days from now. That comes in handy when you're out there hitting the pavement and building business yourself on your own. I mean, you can't be everywhere at once. So plan out the scheduled posts and organize your postings accordingly too. So is the post quote unquote evergreen? Is it something that can go on something that can go up anytime? It's just like a basic informational post, maybe just a reminder to people where you are, what you do. Or is it timely? Is it related to the season or the day or the time or a holiday or a sale you're having or a special? So organize those accordingly. Have your timely tweets or your timely posts go up appropriately, and then maybe save those evergreen posts for a day where you got nothing else going on, but you want to keep it fresh and you want to keep it relevant. And be prepared to respond if necessary. Will the posting encourage interaction? Don't post a question on your Facebook feed and have people answer and not interact with them until 2-3 days later. That's crazy. You have to, if you're going to post something that's going to ask a question or encourage people to respond to you, you need to respond back. So don't schedule something a week from now that's a question about, what's your favorite, wedding flower if you're a florist, and then have it post a week from now and completely forget about it, and then have people responding to you, and you don't get to it 3-4 days later. It's going to look terrible, and it's really going to be a reflection on you from a customer service standpoint. So definitely, if you're going to post something that encourages interaction, take the time out to be there to respond. And again, it can end up being a full-time job. So manage your social networking time wisely. And look, if you can't do it by yourself, this is a great thing to give a young college student or a young high school student who's looking for an internship. It's a great thing to give them to do because they're savvy, they're into it, and they can manage it without you having to be completely on top of it all the time. Now, with money, there are free services out there. They do only up to a certain point, and then there are paid services that do a ton of things. There's a free apps out there, and there are paid apps out there that manage social network feeds. There's also advertising fees and boosting fees. So if you're advertising, for example, on Facebook, on that, there's going to be a cost involved. So, you have to budget accordingly, and this has to do with impressions, reach, etc. So, really quickly, a little aside here, you can go to Facebook ads and you can say, I want to spend $25 on an ad. Here's my demographic. You give them exactly who you're looking for. And I will say that Facebook, does a lot of hand-holding in this respect. That's where they make all their money, so they have to be easy. So, going to Facebook ads and filling out their form and tweaking it and saying, I want to spend $25, then they'll tell you. They'll be right up front. It's a computer system. It's an algorithm. It'll say, if you want to target these people over this period of time, this $25 is going to last an hour. And that's it. You've done your advertising budget. It's done. Or you can say, no, I want to take that $25 and I want to spread it out across, 2 days, then your advertising is going to be slower. It might not go to the exact demographic you're looking for, but you'll be able to spread that out. So these are the things that you need to budget, things you need to think about. How much money you're going to spend on those advertisements, and not only how much money, but how much time is going to be spent on that. Because again, you can blow $25 in 10 minutes. If you're going very specific with your demographic on Facebook ads, you're saying, I just want women over 18 who have purchased, deodorant. It's going to go out, and it's going to, if you happen to have 100 people, 100 impressions that happen to be in that first 5-10 minutes, it's gone. Now you'll be advertising to them. It'll be relevant, but it's not going to last very long. So you have to budget accordingly. And what ends up happening is that a lot of these paid services, they do a lot of that for you. Let me just give you an example of a paid service here. So there's a social media management app called Buffer. And you can see here they are rather expensive. It's $85 a month. There is no contract here. So you could do maybe, every other month. You could do maybe every third, once a quarter. But you could see they have, the networks they deal with: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. They give you the in-depth social analytics. You can build reports. You can schedule up to 2,000 posts for up to 8 accounts. You have the calendar. You can get stories analytics, audience insights. You can export your data. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Really, really does a lot of things. Gets information that the other built-in services, the included analytics, would not be able to get for you. So it's a service like that. You're going to pay some money for that. Or alternatively, let's say from a monitoring standpoint, you have a service like Talkwalker, which is a free alternative to Google Alerts, for example, where you would create an alert. You'll create an account, see how many mentions there are, see how many discussions there are, monitor all the news channels, see if people are talking about you on the web or on social media. And it's free. And you can see this particular service has over 600,000 users. So there's two vastly different things going on here. So, and there is also the in-between as well. So I kind of showed you the extreme here, the extreme ends of it. There are going to be services that are going to be $19 a month, $30 a month. So it's something you should do your due diligence. And, if you want to spend the money on that. And like I said, a lot of these places don't have contracts, so you don't have to do it for the whole year. You can do it for, in piecemeal. You can try it out. And a lot of these places are going to give you 2-3 weeks worth of a free trial. So it's worth checking out. If it's really important to your business and what you're doing, especially in this time of COVID when we really can't go out, and a lot of things that we're doing and our sales are all online based, it might be worth spending the money to build your sales that way, and have your social media feeds managed, well, and buy a service like that. And I mentioned reputation before. All it takes is one bad tweet. All it takes is one bad post or one bad response on a posting to really send things downhill. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's not your fault, and a lot of times it's just people just being nasty, and perhaps there was a situation that you dealt with, and you feel like you dealt with it fairly, but there's only one side of the story, and people are hearing the bad side. They're not hearing your response, and that's where reputation monitoring comes in. So, these companies here that are listed here, what they do is they monitor social networking comments, and they help you respond appropriately. Okay, and in many cases, these services will actually respond for you. And they'll also address any fraudulent claims really quickly. The thing about internet reputation is that it can go downhill in minutes. It could go downhill in hours. It could go downhill very, very fast. So it's important to be on top of that. I think a good example of this, is not quite a social network, but when you have a company like Yelp, a service like Yelp, or a service like TripAdvisor. So you go to a restaurant and you check out their listing, and you see that someone said, I went to this restaurant and there was, the service was terrible. It was slow. There was a hair in my food. No one did anything. It was too expensive, blah, blah, blah. You'll see the best places out there are the ones that respond to those messages. They don't just leave them. They say, we're sorry that had such a bad experience, but when you were there, we realized that wasn't one of our cook's hairs. That was your hair in the food. We gave you your food for free. We offered you a 50% off coupon for the next time you came. The reason why the service was so bad was because it was a tropical storm. I mean, it's the other side of the story. To just leave it like that is very bad. So, companies like Reputation.com, Review Incorporated, what you're seeing here on the screen, Reputation X, netreputation.com, they will monitor that for you. And in many cases, they will take care of those situations and guide you in those situations. So this way, your reputation is maintained. Because, again, quite frankly, we're in a situation right now where folks can't go, for lack of a better term, showrooming. Can't really go out and about. And, a lot of people are doing a lot of their shopping online. A lot of people are doing a lot of their research online, the way things are. So you want to make sure that people are seeing who you really are online and not what perhaps, someone else, some stranger just decides that today is the day that they're going to take you down for no reason, but just out of spite. And, it's interesting if, getting back to Yelp, there are a lot of situations where you'll have a restaurant's competitor post a bad review just because they're the competitor. They're the donut shop down the block that, is trying to steal business from a place that's established, and they want to make trouble. So, services like this come in handy. So that's the presentation part of this, the PowerPoint part of this. Now I'm just going to show you very briefly just a couple examples of some of these apps. Specifically, I'm going to show you a little bit of Hootsuite, and I'm going to show you a little bit of YouTube analytics. Okay, so this is Hootsuite. And you can see this is the Hootsuite for our weather station here at the library. I manage this Twitter account. We have a weather station on the roof. It's the official Twitter feed of the Middle Country Public Library weather station. So you can see here I have these different streams. My home feed, my mentions, my tweets, what I've scheduled, retweets, so on and so forth. Now, you can add a number of social networks. You can do Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest. And what's nice about that is you can have multiple boards here, multiple social networks in each separate column here. And you can see, for example, Twitter in this column, LinkedIn in this column, Facebook in this column, and it's really a great way of managing your social networks. And what we use Hootsuite mostly for is that scheduling component. So, for example, if I want to schedule a tweet here, I can click on post. It's going to ask me to post to what specific social network. In this case, I just have Twitter built in here. But you can, and again, we mentioned before, you really shouldn't post across networks, but you could do that if you wanted to. So you can post across networks, but here in this case, I'm just posting to my weather feed, and then I can start typing here. Are you ready for the fall temperatures are set to drop into the 60s later this week. Whatever you want to put there. You can even attach, a image here, a link. Like if you're having maybe an event, you want to advertise that event, you want to schedule an event, you can put the link here as well. So if I want to put a link here, I could do the link that I've created for the weather station, so on and so forth. Okay. And then you can say schedule for later. Pick your date. Pick your time. Click done. Schedule. And now this tweet is scheduled to go off at 7:15 a.m. on August 29th. And it'll show up in my schedule column. Very, very simple way of doing that. Additionally, I can also manage who I follow here and be able to, retweet or comment right from Hootsuite. So this right here, if I wanted to retweet this particular person here, I could just click on the retweet button, and then it would be on my feed here. So I just tweeted this out live. So yeah, it's a great way of managing multiple social networks, and also seeing if somebody mentions you. And you can move these around too, which is great as well. I can move my mentions right up front here if that's more important for me. So again, a great look here. And we're only seeing it now with the one social network, but you can probably imagine how great this is if I have all 4 or 5 of my social networks right on this one page. So that's where this really comes in very handy. So here's YouTube Analytics. Just another thing that I want to show you very quickly here. Here you can see this is the built-in analytics for a particular video that we have up here. This right now is showing that we have 6 views. We're looking at 12.5% of the folks, more than 12.5% impressions, click-through rate. So YouTube is saying that people are choosing to watch this video more often than usual. We can see on average they're watching between 5.5 and 7.5 minutes. And again, this is something that is telling because this video is actually just beyond the typical range of what people normally watch. So that's actually a good thing. So we have to think about, okay, what was the subject matter of this video based on its length? This might be an indicator here. So I can go directly to that video's analytics and see some more audience information here. So I can click on audience and see, who's subscribed, who's not subscribed. And this also comes in very handy because if I have a video that people are watching that I posted on one of my social networks and the subscribed rate here was 15 compared to non-subscribed, then people are watching the video but not subscribing to my channel. And that right there is an indicator that I need to do something, because that means that I'm not asking people to subscribe to the channel. Maybe I need to put a little bumper at the end of my video that says subscribe. Maybe I need to mention that in my posting on my social media feed that says, here, watch this video and please subscribe to my channel. And you can also see, engagement information, and if anybody, has liked or disliked a video. This is just all very important information that's built in to YouTube and allows me to see who's watching my videos, how long they're watching my videos, and really giving me an idea of, how my social media and my media on the channel is performing. So that's just a taste of some of the analytics and the apps that are online. Like I said, in the past, we've focused on that, but I think it's more important in this case to have focused on more of the best practices. And I hope that that works for you. But if it doesn't, and if you do want to go more in depth on using some of those apps to manage your social media, then we highly recommend that you make an appointment with us. And all of our appointments right now are virtual. So we'll connect with you either by email, by phone, or we can even do a video, a FaceTime or a Zoom meeting. So if you want to make a one-on-one appointment, then definitely give us a call at 631-585-9393, extension 133, or contact us at millercenter@mcplibrary.org. And if you liked this presentation, then definitely subscribe to our channel, because we put all of our online presentations on our channel. Any of special events or special programming, we will also put it there, as well as we have a great collection of how-to videos on our channel. So definitely take advantage of that. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Business Bites Online.